Hello. As you can see here on my computer, the C drive is almost completely full, which is a problem. So I'm going to address that today, and I thought this would be a good opportunity for me to show you how I work with VHDX files. If you look, I've got a number of other drive letters here, and some of them have these little padlocks on. And the ones with the padlocks are all VHDX files, which have got Bitlocker encryption enabled, which means you can't access these drives unless you know the password, which is useful for your privacy. So it's useful to know how to work with these VHDX files. And the problem is that on my desktop I have this folder here called New Vids, and this is the source material for my podcast videos. I've just dumped them on the desktop. As you can see, there's 48 gigabytes just in there, but my C drive is actually quite small. It's only 250 gig. So if I can remove this New Vids folder off here, that's going to free up some space for my C drive. But as you can see down here, I've got a W drive for podcast data, but it's showing that there's only 2 gigabytes available. So obviously I'm not going to fit 50 gig of videos into a 2 gig drive. So what I'm going to do is create a new W drive, which will be large enough to take those 50 gig of videos. So to do that, what I need to do is go to the Start menu and go to Computer Management here, and then click onto Disk Management. Now within here you'll see I've got some of these drives already that I've already made. So what I'm going to do is create a new drive now by going up to Action and Create VHD from this menu at the top. And it's asking me for the location of where this disk is going to be stored. So it's a bit like a zip file. It's going to basically create a type of zip file which will act like a disk drive, and all of those disk drive files are stored on my F drive, which is an external disk. So I'm going to click Browse and point it to the F drive, and I'm going to change the types to VHDX. And because I've already got a W drive, I'm just going to call it W new for now, for the new W drive, and click Save. Now it's asking here how big this drive should be, and it should be VHDX. VHDX is just a more modern version. VHD was like an older version of it. I always go for VHDX because it allows for larger disks, and it's just better. I won't go into too much about why, but on this option here, choose VHDX. And then there's an option to either have a fixed size or have it dynamically expanding, and it says recommended, so I'm going to go with that. So the virtual hard disk size, I'm going to set it to 1 terabyte, which is huge. In fact, it's bigger than I've got available on the F drive, but because it's dynamically expanding, it will allow it, and it will start off small, and as I add files to it, the disk will get bigger. So it's on F drive wnew.vhdx, 1 terabytes. VHDX is the format, and it's dynamically expanding. So I click OK. And now you can see there's a new disk appeared at the bottom here called disk 14, and it says not initialized. So that once we've got to this point, I right click on that and then click initialize disk. And I'm going to go with GPT, which is what it recommends. And now it's changed to online. The status is online, and we've got, as you can see, 1000 gigabytes, which is a terabyte, and it says unallocated. And that means that there's no volume so on that disk. So the next step is we make a new simple volume, and we're just going to leave it on this number here, which is basically the maximum size that the disk can be. So I just click Next, and then it's asking what drive letter I want to assign. Because I've already got W at the moment, I'm just going to temporarily put it to Z drive, and click Next. I can change that later back to W. And the file system is NTFS, and the volume label, I'm just going to call it podcast, and do a quick format, and finish. Okay, so now you can see in my PC, I've now got a Z drive listed amongst all these drives as well as next to my W, and it's got 1 terabyte of free space, and it's completely empty. So let's just put that up there. But at the moment this one doesn't have the little padlock. See, these ones have all got padlocks, which means they're Bitlocker encrypted. But this one isn't. It's a disk, but it doesn't have Bitlocker encryption. So what I'm going to do to turn that on, right click on this disk, and then select Turn Bitlocker On, and then I'm going to use a password to unlock the drive. And now it's important that you don't forget this password ever, because if you forget the password, you basically will never be able to get access to the data in that disk. So it's absolutely critical that you remember what this password is. And then it gives you these options to basically, this will save the encryption key, which would help you recover the data if you get locked out. So I'm just going to put save to a file for now, and I'm just going to save it in my documents. I don't even keep this file. I just delete it later on, but you have to create it in order to turn the BitLocker on. So I click Next. And I'm going to encrypt use disk space only, because there's no files on the disk yet, so that's fine. And I'm going to use the new encryption mode. Are you ready to encrypt this drive? Start encrypting. Encryption is complete, so now you can see it's got the padlock next to the Z drive. And what I can do, at the moment this Z drive is mounted that's why we're able to see it. If I restarted the PC, this Z drive wouldn't appear there. You have to mount the drive each time you restart the PC. But because I keep my PC turned on all the time because it runs my website, I don't have to worry about that too often. But if I right click it, you can see I've got an option to eject it. So if I click eject, you see that the Z drive has now disappeared. But if I want to get that back, I have to go into the F drive and find that WNU file and right click it and mount it. And then it will prompt me for the Bitlocker password, and I just type that in. You might get this error message, you can just ignore that. And then my Z drive has come back again. So because this is going to replace what is currently in W drive, all of this, there are some files in here, so I'm going to copy these files across to the Z drive. That's done. And then I'm going to go to the desktop and get this new vids folder. I'm going to cut that from the desktop and paste it into the Z drive. Might take a little while because there's almost 50 gigabytes in there. If this is, I mean, I know this might look kind of confusing if you're not a techie type person, but you might have to watch this video a couple of times, or just give it a try. Try making one of these VHDX files yourself, just experiment. And if you need any help, you can always message me, and I will try and help you out if you get stuck. What I would suggest, for the first time you do this, when you put files in, just make sure you've got a backup copy, just in case you do it wrong. You don't want to end up losing your important files. In my case, I just cut and paste because I know what I'm doing. And to be honest, it won't be that much of a big deal if I end up losing those files anyway, because they're for videos that I've already made, and I'll probably never refer back to that content again. But I don't want to delete it right now, just in case I do need to refer back to it. Just waiting for this to copy across, or move across. As I mentioned, one of the major advantage to this is that your data is now encrypted. So even if somebody gets logged onto your PC, like they know the login password to get into Windows, if that disk isn't mounted, they're not going to be able to get at their data without knowing the Bitlocker password. So you should make sure that your Bitlocker password is not the same as the login password for your computer. Otherwise, that kind of defeats the object. But the other good thing about having it encrypted is you can back up these VHDX files onto an external disk, and then you don't have to worry if somebody gets hold of that backup copy. They're not going to be able to read it because unless they've got the password. So it's a secure way to store your information without anybody being able to pry into it. Okay, so that's finished. So we've got the original folder, which was podcast, and then we've got the new vids folder. But I'll just put that inside there. So we should find now that the C drive, it's now got 53 gigabytes free, which is fine. I don't need a huge amount for the C drive, but it was getting dangerously low. So now the problem is I've got W drive and Z drive, and we want Z to replace the W. So what I'm going to do is unmount the W drive by ejecting it, and I'm going to also unmount this Z drive. And then I'm going to go to the F drive, which is my external USB hard drive, into this old stuff folder. So the W drive can now be deleted, and the W new, I'm just going to rename that just to be W. So now when I right click and mount it, it's going to map it as Z drive again. So in order to change this Z drive to be W drive, I go back into my computer management and disk management, and find the Z drive on this list, which is here. And then if I right click it, I can change the drive letter. So I'm going to change it from Z to W. And now you can see it's listed as W colon instead of Z colon. Now I've got several of these VHDX files, and I use different ones for different categories. So like you've got one here for my music that I put in my car, I've got one for my Lego, I've got one for pictures, one for documents, I've got one for my photo albums, my archive, software, movies. I've got a whole bunch of these for different purposes, so I can separate it out. So if ever I change my layout, or I want to move these onto a different disk drive for whatever reason, I can easily do that. As I say, if this doesn't make any sense to you, don't worry about it, but it's something interesting and useful for you to learn how to do. So hopefully this video was useful for you. Thanks for watching.